Your host, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live on this Tuesday afternoon, February 8th, 2022. We'll give it just a moment here to make sure the signal is going out and we have an audience. And just a little bit of housekeeping. This is your host, the Fullerton Informer, P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. And if you're going to send me anything in the mail, make sure you put tracking on it, because it probably won't get to me. My contact information is joeimbriano777@gmail.com. The FullertonInformer.com is the main website, 5gdangers.com. VaxDangers.com, WiFiDangers.com, CellTowerDangers.com. Those are the big ones right now, folks. And of course, NASAFraud.com, Apple666.org, Disney666.com. We could go on. Good afternoon, folks. Glad you could join us today. I wanted to talk to you. I was driving through the streets of Fullerton early this morning on an errand. And it looks like the classes at Cal State Fullerton have resumed in person, because I saw an awful lot of cars and I saw a lot of young men and women crossing the streets in fully weaponized apparel. All right, so without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to what a fully weaponized idiot is. And this is not to be derogatory, folks. This is just to point out what they've done to us, okay? Now, I might add that what I'm about to describe to you may be shocking. What I'm about to outline with all of you may be surprising. And by the time you're done listening to this broadcast, you may think I'm an idiot. But that, my friends, is your prerogative. All right, now, the first thing in first order, folks, is you've got to understand our existence on the face of this earth was ordained by God to live free and independent, and yet connected with His creation, right? And yet, everything that is being done to us and everything we're trained to do is in diametric opposition to His plan. That you can do to be a weaponized idiot is to wear sunglasses, right? Now, don't get me wrong. There's a time and a place if you're on the ski slopes, you know, and you're being blinded, right? But by and large, folks, I don't own a pair of sunglasses, and you should be able to deal with the sun when you're driving. If not, you're not getting enough. Or you got something wrong with your eyes and you're not taking care of your health. The sun is a magnificent lens in the sky that the Bible refers to as the greater light. And it is a lens, folks. It's not some gas ball billions of miles away, because if it was billions of miles away, when it goes south for the winter, it wouldn't get so cold. If it was billions of miles away, going a couple hundred miles to the south wouldn't drop but a degree or two. But see, the reality is it's very close to us, and it is a lens. But the reason I bring that up is because the lens is almost unavoidable. All right? And during the day, you can't hide from it. The light is everywhere, and it's for a reason. When God said, "Let there be light," He wasn't kidding. So, the children of darkness, the sons of Cain, the deniers of Jesus Christ, the enemies of God, have weaponized eyewear. That's right. UV blocking lenses. Life-giving light being blocked from entry through your eyes. Life-giving light being blocked by UV blocking contact lenses. Life-giving light being blocked by UV blocking corrective lenses. Life-giving light being blocked by ridiculous vampire sunglasses, right? You see, folks, the eyes are the window to the soul, and they also tell your body everything that's going on around you. Your visual perception dictates a lot of autonomic functions, as well as intentional and automated reflexes. One of the worst things you can do is wear sunglasses, folks. Now, let's get on to the second thing. One of the most important things a human needs, or any animal for that matter needs for survival, is energy. Plants get their energy from the sun, and they convert it through the process called photosynthesis. They uptake water and minerals and nutrients from the ground. Symbiotic fungi in the soil work together in converting atmospheric nitrogen into usable resources for the plant, and for the lack of a better explanation, to keep it simple, electrons are created and released, and that's the energy the plant uses to turn all that junk into wood and sugar and avocados and oranges and bamboo and asparagus, right? So how do we get our energy, folks? Well, there's two ways a human being can get their energy. Number one is from earthing, being connected to the earth, going barefoot, right? Wearing leather-soled shoes, right? Submersing in a lake or a river, walking in the sand with your shoes off, walking on the grass, climbing a tree, being in contact with the earth. What does a weaponized idiot wear all the time? Rubber-soled shoes with sunglasses or contact lenses or corrective lenses when they're outside. What happens when you don't get electrons from the earth? Well, you've got to get them from food, and that's a pretty nasty endeavor because it requires quite a bit. And in a lot of cases, eat things that you shouldn't eat to make you sick and not healthy. But ideally, folks, a balance of electrons being released through the consumption of carbohydrates and fats through a process called aerobic respiration, being run through something called the Krebs cycle, releases electrons and energy in the form that your body needs. It's biological, biochemical, physiological, electrochemical, and miraculous processes called life. The other way you can get those electrons is simply getting them from the earth. Did you ever wonder why it's possible to go without food for so long and still be fine in some of these countries where these guys are running around with no shoes on? Did you ever notice how fit they are? How they got all their teeth? How they got all their hair? Look at us, right? Look, folks, I'm not Jackal Elaine. I'm in the society here. I'm in it, okay? But I'm doing my best to make sure that I'm connected to the earth and my eyes are getting the sunlight I need. And I don't care if you're in the snow. I don't care if you're in the clouds. You need to get the light through your eyes, because if you're in the snow, guess what? There's still plenty of ultraviolet coming through the clouds and reflecting off of that whiteness. You need at least an hour a day of sunlight through your eyes. I don't care if it's 20 below outside. Find a way to get ultraviolet light from the sun. You need full spectrum lighting in your life, okay? Another thing a weaponized idiot does is it walks around with a mask on outside in the fresh air, okay? Now, a weaponized idiot does everything it can to circumvent the life-giving process of absorbing light through the eyes so it can trigger the proper reactions in the skin and the proper metabolic functions, converting things like cholesterol into cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D. and also just the overall production of melanin and all of the processes that go along with the sunlight being present through the eyes. When that's blocked, when the electrons are blocked, and then the carbon dioxide is re-inhaled as the oxygen intake is limited, a weaponized idiot becomes even more of a weaponized idiot, because then what happens is the person that is subjected to all of these deficiencies of light and electrons and fresh air becomes emotionally and psychologically altered to the point that the subject in question and in reference needs some sort of stimulation. Enter the AirPods. A weaponized idiot can be seen walking down the street with AirPods in their ears, with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi enabled on their smartphone, broadcasting microwave frequencies into the receiver, which forms literally a bullseye over the nose and the mouth for when they go live with the millimeter wave oxygen blocking frequencies. But it's a direct access to the brain cavity, right through the hole in each side of the weaponized idiot's head. So you can always recognize a weaponized idiot by the fact that they're microwaving the inside of their skull cavity. And that's why they call things like skull candy and, you know, folks. That's why they call it like Bluetooth, you know. So a microwaved sunglass wearing, rubber soled shoe wearing, masked up young person going to college really needs your prayers and your wisdom, folks. And I don't care if you don't like my voice. That's your problem. Boy, you guys don't like my voice. Come on. How am I supposed to talk when I'm driving without making sure that my tone is high enough to overpower the noise of the fan and the tires, right? Come on. I'll tell you what. You don't like the tone of my voice? Then tune into NPR, where tonight we will talk about how to make chocolate-covered brownies out of used tires and discarded lithium batteries from electric cars. And tonight, your host on NPR will talk about how the vaccination agenda has really moved into new heights and new levels, where the Medicaid and Medicare patients are amongst the most highly vaccinated population in the United States. And we'll talk about the 15th booster shot that's coming out from the new drug company that's on the move today. And tonight on NPR, we'll talk about the business model for the new economy, where all of you will be forced to stay inside a 4x6 cell hooked up to electrodes as you're fed Soylent Green liquid drip through a catheter. No thanks, folks. Not into that. So, a weaponized idiot can be identified as someone walking into a government school with AirPods on, sunglasses on, and a mask on with rubber-soled shoes on. That's right, folks. And you know what? Those are your children! Those are your children that this is being done to. And guess what? When they go into the school, guess what happens? They get to sit in a classroom like at Troy High School in Fullerton, California. The classrooms have sheet metal walls, and the classrooms have super high-powered Wi-Fi access points inside rooms that have sheet metal walls. Each classroom is full of 40 students who has their cell phone turned on in Wi-Fi mode and Bluetooth mode, with a Wi-Fi router hooked up to 40 Chromebooks or infertility pads. Think about this, folks. Every classroom at Troy High School's got at least 80 wireless devices plus the access points on the ceiling inside sheet metal walls. Now, you tell me, what do you think that's going to do to these children when they decide to play with the frequencies? Well, you can see the videos I've done when they monkey with the frequencies. That's right. You can see the videos that show children getting paralyzed or passing out. I don't need to get back into this, do I? But my point is, these are your children, ladies and gentlemen. And I really do, honestly, folks, I really have a heart for children because I'm a parent. And I was a child once, and I remember how wonderful it was to be a child, and how wonderful it was to just ride my bicycle and feel the wind in my hair and feel the warmth of the sun and hear the birds chirping and smell the fragrances of the blossoms on an apricot tree or a loquat tree, or watch the bees pollinate the bushes, or watch the moths, you know, pollinate these carnations and these different types of lantana flowers. I mean, you want to talk about an amazing array of colors, folks. Lantana bushes, and then the berries, you know, the blue berries on them. You just, you know, you chew, you suck the softness off, spit the seeds out. Folks, I just remember all these things as a child, and they're all, now the children are running around on playgrounds with masks on at school with AirPods on. They're walking home with noise-canceling headphones, crossing intersections with sunglasses, with masks, with noise-canceling AirPods plugged into their skull, with rubber-soled shoes, going home to microwave Hot Pockets. You know, folks, it's not right. And, you know, there are a lot of criminals involved in this operation. And one of the biggest groups of criminals is you parents, okay? Because you're too cowardly to stand up against this and say no, or you're too lazy to even listen and look into it. And for you, I have no sympathy. For your children, I do. Because I got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of young people listen to me because I run into these young people when I go places, and the first thing they do when they see me is smile and say, "Hi, Mr. Imbriano, how are you?" And they tell me how much they appreciate what I'm doing. Now, you know what I hear from the parents? How that I'm a nut job, that I'm an evil person, that I'm a bad person, that I'm crazy, that I'm a conspiracy theorist, that I wear a tinfoil hat. That's right. Some of you are my neighbors. Some of you are people that I played baseball with your children. Some of you, I coached your children at soccer. Some of you, I put the flyers on your cars at the baseball or the soccer games or the softball games or the PTA night or the back to school night. And you all know who you are. And you are all guilty as sin of ruining an entire generation and creating an entire generation of what? Weaponized idiots. Now, I will have no part in suffocating and irradiating and blocking the electron supply of, and blocking the life-giving light going into the eyes of anyone's children. Now, although I can only physically stop this in my own family, I am respectfully imploring you selfish, alcoholic, cowardly, myopic morons that want to call yourselves parents to do the same. And to those of you who watch these videos and listen and heed the warnings, praise God for you. And may the Holy Spirit give you wisdom and guidance and courage to continue to defend your children against the conversion process of divinely created, sovereign, intellectual, moral, free agent, living creatures called human beings, created in the image of God, from being turned into weaponized idiots getting ready to be slaughtered. Because you see, folks, I don't like what's happening. And when I think about the curriculum, you know, I might as well talk about the curriculum at these schools. Let's talk about Troy High School, where they, you know, like Shakespeare, for example. What a bunch of pathetic, disgusting garbage. You know, I had a discussion with my son about the curriculum at the high school that the children are forced to read. And he was telling me about Shakespeare. Yeah, they fall in love and they both kill themselves. Isn't that a romance novel from the pit of hell? Screw that guy. All right? What is that crap, death education? Think about it, folks. What is this? All these bizarre, freaky, disgusting death education books they got to read. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And then then they force these children to learn all these ridiculous equations about, you know, how these fake spaceships stay up in the sky. You know, it's hilarious. All this theoretical stuff, right? You know, you could do anything on a chalkboard, right? You can prove anything on a chalkboard. Just ask Einstein about how he was a complete fraud, and he wasn't a genius, he was a clown. But we're being taught, and you know, the pictures of him sticking his tongue out, all this stuff is lies, okay? Think about this for just a second. If you want to jack up a car and change the tire, you've got to put the jack on what? On the ground. And then the jack pushes up on the car, and there's a force exerted against what? The ground. And that's why you better use concrete. Now, when an airplane takes off, its jet engines roar, and they produce thrust, which is forced air against the ground? No, against the atmospheric pressure, the density of the air on the ground. In other words, it's pushing against the air mass on the ground so it can get rolling. Now, what happens when there ain't nothing to push against up at a certain altitude? Well, you go nowhere fast. That's why they can only go so high, folks. That's why everything that ever takes off, either a rocket or an airplane, always hangs a sharp right when it gets to a certain altitude, because it's got nothing left to push against. So it's got to come back down. I'm sick of it, folks. I am sick of this nonsense that you are destroying your children to force feed. Okay? And that's what it is. It's disgusting. I know some of you don't like it when I yell. This is the yelling channel. I don't yell on the other one because I know some of you are sensitive to the high-pitched shrieks, right? And the shrills, right? Look, come on. By the way, where is everybody? It's a beautiful day. It's going to be 90 degrees by Sunday. They're working really hard at running these weather modification systems in high gear in Southern California. Yep. That's right, folks. At SoFi Stadium, who knows what they're going to do to that place? Maybe nothing, but you can watch the halftime show of the Super Bowl Sunday extravaganza, and you can be sure it's going to be a sigil fest. Let me tell you, they're going to have all kinds of satanic, Illuminati, disgusting, ritualistic garbage. That's what they're going to do, folks. That's what they're going to do. 90 degrees in February. The sky looks like a tic-tac-toe game at a spin-the-bottle party, right? It's a mess, folks. Anyway, so I don't want any of you to be a weaponized idiot. Why is it that it's so obvious to see weaponized idiots? Well, because nobody in their right mind would walk around covering up their nose and mouth and their eyes and putting a radiation transmitter inside their ears and wear something that keeps their feet from absorbing the electrons. Now, a lot of people don't know about this stuff, folks. All right? But that's the problem, and that's where you and I come in. You see, our job is to warn others, okay? Jesus was asked one night by this guy that came to him, and you know, the guy came at night because he was afraid to be seen with Jesus, right? That tells you everything you need to know about the guy, right? He's hiding out, coming at night, scared to ask questions, scared to be seen with him during the day. So he comes and, hey, you know, good teacher, what must I do, right? And Jesus had a very simple answer for this guy. And he said, look, the law and the prophets can all be hung up on these two things. You love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Okay? Very simple. Okay? And you love your neighbor as yourself. All right? Now, we all know that if you love God, you can't do evil. And if you love God with all your heart, in your heart, you're not going to hurt people. Okay? And if you love the Lord your God with all your mind, you're not going to be devising evil, wicked, vile, perverted, sick, demonic, harmful, sick, gross, disgusting things, right? Like the deniers of Jesus Christ do and crank it out on the big screen for everybody's consumption, right? If you love the Lord your God with all your strength, you'll do everything in your power to make sure that everything I just mentioned gets done. The second part of that equation on the right side of the equal sign here, folks, is that you love your neighbor as yourself. And I'm not talking about buying flowers for the degenerate scum that is hurting children that lives in your neighborhood, or the person that is working for the system that is hurting people. You pray for those people, and you pray that God's will be done for those people. There are many references in the Bible to who is your neighbor, and it's the person in need, folks, and the people that are being victimized. That your neighbor is an innocent person that's being victimized by organized evil, okay? Your neighbor is somebody that's being lied to and attacked. Your neighbor is somebody that's being beaten up and robbed. Your neighbor is somebody that is being subverted and poisoned and destroyed. They need to be helped and protected and warned of the impending agendas aimed at them. And that is your duty as a follower and as a disciple of Jesus Christ. It is not to fold your hands and act like some emasculated coward and walk around with daisies coming out of your eyeballs all day, folks. You got people that are getting killed, that are getting poisoned, that are getting subverted, that are getting perverted, they're getting drugged, they're getting chemoed, they're getting injected, they're getting suffocated, they're getting irradiated, they're getting all kinds of deficiencies, chronic metabolic disorders, intentionally being delivered to them through psychological warfare and intentional disinformation through the government and the schools. And it's being doubled down on by the churches because they're all in on it. So what you need to do if you really love people is you'll tell them the truth, okay? And look, I talk to people in the aisle at the thrift store, for crying out loud. I'll start a conversation with somebody. If I see somebody in the market and I see them buying something, like for example, I was in a thrift store a week ago, and I heard these gals talking about this pot that they were looking at buying, this Teflon pan, and the thing was marked like I don't know, $15. And I heard him talking about it. She says, "Oh, this is a really nice one." And I'm like, I had to butt in, and I said, I started talking a little Spanish to him. I said, "Look, you really probably shouldn't buy this because the Teflon scratched on it, and this gives off PFOA, and you don't want to be eating those flakes. And once the Teflon is cracked or scratched, it's going to continue to peel off, and you're going to eat it. And those are what they call forever chemicals, and they can cause endocrine cancers." And they looked at me, and they said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "De veras?" I said, "No vale $15. And they put it back. And I said, "Vete al TJ Maxx, ahí los tienen por $20 por las nuevas." And I said, "Go to TJ Maxx and get one for $20 for the new ones." And they said, "Ay, gracias, señor, muchas gracias. Que Dios le bendiga." They're telling me, "Hey, thank you so much. May God bless you." And I said, "No problem." And I went on my way. And that little act right there, I mean, think about this, folks. I don't know how many people would have been eating out of that pot for the next 10 years. But, that little 10-second dialogue and diatribe with these people may have just stopped, endocrine disruption and metastatic breast cancer and ovarian cancer and all kinds of other problems from going into this family. And all it took was 10 seconds. That's my point, folks. You know, I know people that have gone through this life pushing and kicking and stepping on everyone they can to get all they can. They find out something that's really cool, like a technique. They never share anything with anyone. All they care about is themselves. All they care about is their family. All they care about is these accomplishments of their children. All they want to do is brag, brag, brag about literal nothing but nonsense, right? Oh, my son does this. Oh, my daughter does this. Oh, my son got this award. Oh, never opening their mouth about anything that has to do with looking out for anyone but themselves. And they are a train wreck. As the time goes on, their life is a disaster, their family is a disaster, their children are a wreck, their health is a wreck, their marriage is a wreck, because all they cared about was heaping everything up for their selfish, sorry, pathetic existence, and had no regard for anyone else. And guess what happens? You know, you play that game, you go down hard. Okay? Now, tell people the truth, folks. Tell them the truth. You know, you got to warn people, okay? Jesus was very clear, you know, in the illustration of the Good Samaritan. You know, this poor guy got the crap beat out of him, left for dead by the side of the road because he got robbed. Pretty common stuff happening these days. You know, that parable of the Good Samaritan, that's a school child. He's being beat up and left for dead by the side of the road. They're destroying the mind of the child. They're physically filling the child full of all kinds of toxic injections, irradiating the child, sleep depriving the child, microwaving the child, force feeding the child a bunch of propaganda, Marxist garbage. All right? Aren't we supposed to do something? Because the parents only care about their stimulus check. They only care about their EBT card. They only care about their housing allowance. They only care about, you know, the Frappuccino Makalaka and the, you know, the light up session that comes on the weekend when the lights go out, right? I mean, people are very degenerate, folks. They're very selfish. They're very evil. They're very sinister. They're very deceptive. Why? How do I know this? Because it's very clear. People are inherently evil and wicked unless they're redeemed. Okay? That's why Jesus had to go and bleed out on that cross to pay the price, to allow for complete forgiveness and regeneration. And he had to send his Spirit to wash us, right? So you gotta stick up for the innocents, folks. You can't just go through life looking at how many zeros you got on pieces of paper. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. The deniers of Jesus Christ that print those papers can erase the zeros. And there will come a day when it won't matter how many zeros you thought you had. Because you'll pick up the phone and get a busy signal. You'll go to a building, it'll be closed. Or you'll go outside and there'll be military police out there with MP5s. And they'll say, shut up and go back to your room. Because that can happen. Because why? It's happened all over the world, and it can happen here. So don't go through life just worrying about yourself. All right? Because guess what? You know what happens when you worry about yourself? Here's what happens, okay? Let me tell you how this works. When you do nothing but worry about yourself, guess what? They'll tell two friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. And pretty soon, everybody is just worrying about themselves, and guess what happens? Nobody stops the tide of evil. Evil overtakes the land, and everyone perishes. So if you want to live for yourself and live in your little bubble and, you know, have TV sets on your toilet and in every room and, you know, have Wi-Fi repeaters, you know, all over your house and, you know, have all these gadgets and blue lights and LED lights everywhere and go through life just counting your zeros and lying to people and backstabbing and betraying and talking smack and lying through your teeth and working for the evil, sinister deniers of Jesus Christ, guess what happens, folks? Guess what happens? You go down. You know why? Because the wrath of God abides over you like a dark cloud, and it never leaves. If you want God's blessing, do what he says. All right? All right, listen. Bottom line is Jesus paid it all. Open your eyes, and loving others is not being fake and saying hi. Loving others is sticking your neck out. And what did Jesus say? Lay your life down for them, right? Okay. Would you do that? No better friend than one who would lay his life down for him. Would you lay your life down for your friend, folks? Would you lay your life down for your children? I know a lot of you right now who wouldn't even think twice about selling your children out. I can tell you right now, there are a lot of businesses in Orange County that are full of young girls that their parents have sold out in Southeast Asia, all right? And if you're one of these filthy pigs that goes to these massage parlors, I hope your face ends up on the front page of every newspaper in the country and they find you hanging by a rope somewhere, all right? Because that's what you deserve for messing with these little girls that have been sold off by their parents, you filthy pigs. How's that sound? And a lot of you are police officers. I know who you are. You filthy pigs, you go to these places and cheat on your wives. Folks, you got to look at the implications and the ramifications of everything you do, every dollar you spend, and every minute of your time. And take a full accounting of it and make sure that you maximize your existence for good. And let those that mean evil for us fail as a result of our time management strategy. It's very simple. All right, thanks for tuning in, folks. I went a little long today. I don't want you to have weaponized idiots for children. And I don't want you to allow weaponized idiots to keep walking around. Just next time you see somebody walking around with a set of AirPods on, say, hey, did you know that they can, like, beam the radiation right into your head and it's not a good idea to keep the transmitter where you don't have any skull? And did it ever occur to you why they call it skull candy? Maybe it's like a sick joke and there's a picture of a dead person on the label or whatever. Did you know that sunglasses ruin your eyes and make your eyes weaker? And, you know, there's no better way to have a heart attack than to take showers in chlorinated water and wear sunglasses, because all that cholesterol will float around in your blood and end up getting, you know, turned into a liquid crystal, you know, cholesterol chloride, you know, and calcify, and then, you know, boom, all of a sudden you seize up and you drop. From what? It ain't from the egg yolks, folks. It's from the chlorinated water, and it's from the sunglasses. When you block the process of sunlight going through your eyes, you allow for massive amounts of cholesterol to continue to float through your blood. And you know what happens? Eventually your body says, we better do something with this. And then it gets deposited places it doesn't belong, and it gets calcified by coming into contact with the halide compounds you're inhaling in your shower and in the drinking water and in the halide compounds in your toothpaste. Folks, I could go for hours and talking about this, okay? I want you all not to be a weaponized idiot, and if you know somebody that's a weaponized idiot, have a talk with them. If you know somebody that's raising a weaponized idiot, have a talk with them. Don't smoke a joint with them and pretend it's not happening. Don't take them out and go drink it with them and pretend it's not going on. Tell the truth! Because guess what? If you don't, nobody will. And if nobody tells the truth, they win. I ain't going to let that happen on my watch. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for being loyal and faithful in prayer. And get the likes up, folks. And get this video out. And share this far and wide. And get the word out while we have the time. Take care.